Welcome to the TELABS Optical LAN Advanced Procedures video, Radius with Windows Policy Server. This video will explain how to get the TELABS NAC to interoperate with the Windows Policy Server when it is used as a Radius server for authentication. The topics that will be covered in this video will be an introduction to the Windows Policy Server and its relationship to the TELABS NAC, and a step-by-step process for configuring the Windows Policy Server to accomplish this. Network Policy Server, or NPS, allows you to centrally configure and manage network access authentication, authorization, and accounting with 3 features. Radius Server performs centralized authentication and authorization for wireless, authenticating switch, remote access dial-up, and VPN connections. Radius Proxy can configure connection request policies that tell the NPS which connection requests to forward to other Radius servers and to which Radius server to forward connection requests. Using Radius Accounting, the NPS can be configured to log events to a local log file or to a local or remote instance of Microsoft SQL Server. NPS can be used with the TELABS Network Access Controller Engine to control access to network resources via Radius authentication. The TELABS NAC is the authenticator serving as the PAE or Port Authentication Entity. It sends Radius requests to the Windows Network Policy Server, which is serving as the Radius server and policy engine. It authenticates users via Radius and assigns policies based upon their authentication credentials. This video will explain how to configure the Windows NPS to work with the TELABS NAC. Check to make sure NPS is installed by going to Server Manager. Click on Tools. If NPS does not show up in this list, go to Manage, Add Roles and Features. Follow the prompts until you get to Server Roles. Select Network Policy and Access Services. Click Add Feature. Follow prompts to the confirmation page. Click on Install. The installation should take a few minutes to complete. To start Network Policy Server, open the Server Manager, select Tools, Network Policy Server. The NPS console will open. A connection request policy needs to be created to define how to handle connection requests. This policy defines how to recognize the request via conditions in the message and what attributes to include in the response back to the TELABS equipment. The attributes tell the OLT how to configure the Ethernet port on the system. Different policies can be crafted for different device types and access methods and specify different profiles to be applied. To create a connection request policy, go to Policies, Connection Request Policies. Then right-click New. Name your policy. Press Next. Press Add to add the conditions. Select Ethernet as the NAS port type. This defines it as an Ethernet port that is wired. Repeat the process to add a service type condition. Select Framed as the service type on the common dial-up and VPN tunnel types. This rule will now apply to all wired Ethernet ports. Click Next and you'll be prompted with the options for authentication. This defines the allowed authentication methods. Select Override Network Policy Authentication Settings. Select the authentication method based upon the authentication methods that will be used based upon local policies. This example shows enabling 2 authentication methods, which are listed in priority order. Click Next to view the Configure Settings screen. Select the standard Radius attributes. Here, filter IDs are added to the Access Accept response. Press the Add button and select Filter ID. Then add the attribute value for the filter ID. This example uses the Profile Match feature to pick the local data VLAN profile on the TELABS OLAN Ethernet port being authenticated. Other filter IDs can be used to add an ACL profile to permit all traffic to the Ethernet port. The if alias will define the string that will be displayed on the port in the EMS GUI, which allows the port to dynamically reflect information that will identify it. Once all the necessary ACLs, service profile references, and any if alias names are added, select OK to add the connection request policy. It is also recommended that the termination action and timeout be specified to explicitly set the re-authentication period. This defines how often the client needs to be re-authenticated to keep the port authenticated and running. Select Termination Action and click Add. Use the value of Radius request. Select Session Timeout and click Add. Set the value in seconds. This example sets the re-authentication period to 14 hours. Click on Close to finish out the standard Radius attributes. Press Next as no vendor-specific attributes are needed at this time. Press Finish to accept the connection policy. Next, the OLT needs to be added to allow it as a Radius client so that the network policy server will allow Radius requests from the Tellabs OLN system. Under Radius Client and Servers, Radius Clients, right-click New and create the Radius client. Under the Advanced tab, ensure that you select additional options. Access request messages must contain the message authenticator attribute. The Windows Network Policy Server should now accept requests from the Tellabs OLT and send back filter ID information, ACL policies, and be able to name the connection on the port dynamically to help document the active connections on the system. This concludes this video. In it, we have discussed an introduction to the Windows Policy Server and its relationship to the Tellabs NAC, and a step-by-step process for configuring the Windows Policy Server to accomplish this.